This week on ANN, the church in Jamaica celebrates religious freedom.
A church in New York holds a forum to discuss racial tensions in the United States.
And a panel discusses whether the Adventist church can remain distinctive even as it grows.
These stories and more coming up.
This is ANN, a service of the Seventh-day Adventist World Church. Thanks so much for joining us this week.
The Seventh-day Adventist Church in Jamaica last week opened a chapter of International Religious Liberty Association. The announcement came at a religious freedom festival held in the National Arena in Kingston on Saturday, January 24th. The event was attended by thousands of Adventists, community members, and top government officials, including Governor General Patrick Allen. Chapter leaders said the association is needed because Jamaicans should not take their current religious freedom for granted. Jamaica joins more than 80 other countries with national religious liberty associations. The multi-denomination association aims to defend the rights of all faiths. The Seventh-day Adventist Church is the key sponsor of the parent organization, the International Religious Liberty Association, which has defended religious freedom since it was established in 1893.
It was important to have a religious liberty festival in Jamaica because in Jamaica our church is very important. You know, about 13% of the population say that they are Adventists. And also we have Adventists at every level of the government and the society. And it was important that the church mobilized its members to say, we love religious freedom. We want to thank Jamaica for the religious freedom we have, and we want to be sure that we invite everyone to join us to be sure that you know that the Adventist Church is in favor of religious freedom for all and everywhere. That was a strong message, and it has been well received by people and by the authorities of Jamaica.
A Seventh-day Adventist church in New York recently hosted a service aimed at quelling racial tensions in the community. Tensions flared last month after a white police officer's chokehold led to the death of a black citizen. Later, two officers were gunned down by a man claiming retaliation. In response, two local fields hosted a forum at an Adventist church in Brooklyn called Hope and Healing for Better Police and Community Relations. Church leaders on January 18 met with city leaders, police officials, and members of Congress to discuss reconciliation. Local field president Daniel Honore rejected what he said is a false choice that a person must only support either community rights or the police. Each audience member was given a card containing information about how to respond when stopped by police, as well as information about a citizen's rights and responsibilities. U.S. Congresswoman Yvette Clarke praised organizers for hosting a forum with an understanding of the gospel that can transform life in real time.
February 4th is International Cancer Day, which is an annual day of emphasis sponsored by the Union for International Cancer Control. The campaign promotes cancer prevention, early detection, treatment, and care. Seventh-day Adventists have long promoted healthful living and welcome the opportunity to support the international initiative.
Ernestine Finley, wife of Adventist evangelist Mark Finley, completed her first marathon at the age of 70 on Sunday. The Adventist Review reported that she placed third in her age group and raised tens of thousands of dollars toward the $4 million Life Hope Church and Evangelism Center in the U.S. state of Virginia. Finley is the author of the cookbook, Natural Lifestyle Cooking, and is a health lecturer at her husband's evangelistic meetings. Finley said she trained for and participated in the 26-mile or 42-kilometer race to improve her health and to encourage other people to achieve better health. Finley ran the marathon in the town of Celebration, Florida, in just over 6 hours.
The Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Malawi is responding to severe flooding by distributing supplies to more than 2,000 people. News agencies have reported that floods and heavy winds killed more than 175 people in recent weeks. ADRA is partnering with the World Food Program to distribute food to survivors in the Southern District of Palambe. The food items include maize, cooking oil, a soya blend, and pigeon peas. More than 800 households have been displaced in the district.
The Penang Adventist Hospital in Malaysia hosted a charity concert last month to raise funds for its new oncology center, which is set to receive patients in June. The musical celebration was jointly hosted by the Gospel Chorus 316 Music Ministry of Singapore and Tunku Abdul Rahman University College. More than 1,000 people attended the concert to support the new oncology center. The hospital's chief executive officer, Dr. Wesley Toh, said patients battling cancer will be treated with a multidisciplinary approach where many specialists collaborate to serve one patient. The oncology center will also offer preventive cancer care through community health education and after-treatment services such as cancer support groups and pastoral care. Penang Adventist Hospital also regularly provides subsidized treatments for low-income patients with approval of the hospital's charity committee.
A recent article in Christianity Today asked if the Seventh-day Adventist Church is keeping with its president's call not to become too mainstream. The article contrasts the rapid growth of the church with its ability to maintain a self-understanding of distinctiveness. So just where is the balance between expressing Christianity and distinct Seventh-day Adventist beliefs? We asked Ivan Williams and Derek Morris to share their thoughts with anchor Garrett Caldwell.
Thank you both for being here. Derek, I want to begin with you. You're the editor of a magazine for ministers produced by the Seventh-day Adventist Church that goes to pastors of all denominations. I want to ask you, from the perspective of those outside of our denomination, as they look at what's happening in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, what do they see? What's going on?
Well, I think they see a church that's changing. When I was a little boy, 1.5 million Seventh-day Adventists worldwide, now more than 18 million. It's a very diverse community. It's a vibrant community. So whatever challenges we're facing, they're seeing a community that's growing and changing.
Ivan, you're the ministerial director for the church in North America. All of the pastors in North America look to you for leadership and guidance. In the church in North America, people also sense change is happening, and for some people it's unsettling and a little fearful. What's motivating some of the changes that are happening in the church?
Well, in order to reach people, we have to move out of our quote-unquote isolation mode. Especially in many cities, you have churches of other faith groups, other denominations very close in proximity to a Seventh-day Adventist church. And no longer can we act as if they don't exist, but we are to at least connect with them and see what common approaches we can have to alleviate human problems.
Is there a fear that just by associating we'll somehow become changed ourselves?
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes we act as if what others have may rub off on us, but I think we have something awesome to be able to share.
Derek, on the wider landscape, there was a terminology tossed around in that magazine article, evangelicalism versus other things. Where does the Seventh-day Adventist Church fit? Are we evangelical? Are we fundamental? Are we something other? What are we?
I think people have a kind of drive to find a label and categorize everything. I think we have so much more in common with other Christian churches than we have that separates us, especially when we look at the world. So I would like to say we are followers of Jesus. We love His Word. We ask to be anointed by His Spirit. And where we see God at work in other places, we want to join God in what He's doing there.
Does our distinctive calling put us at odds necessarily with other religions?
I think it can. It happened in the time of Jesus. But Jesus also was quick to say, if they're not against me, they're for me. And I have other sheep that are not of this fold. So Jesus recognized that He was calling people from every nation, kindred, tongue, and people.
So Ivan, what's the context? Where do we and how do we roll up our sleeves, work side by side, hand in hand with other faith groups and other denominations?
Well, I think there is a distinction that I see merging together in people's minds. There is a difference between ecumenism and maybe an interfaith dialogue. with interfaith dialogue, I want to know my neighbors. You take, for instance, the church I attend when I'm home. Right next door is a mosque. Why shouldn't I get to know those individuals who attend that mosque? Jesus asked us as Christians to be the salt of the earth, the light of the world. We can't do it just staying safe, sanctimoniously in our church buildings.
Thank you both for being here.
Coming up, an Adventist university in North America receives a national honor.
The Lord is my rock, my fortress and my deliverer. My God is my rock, in whom I take refuge. He is my shield and the horn of my salvation, my stronghold.
I pray for that when I was my hands got cold, and sometimes God just does it without even having to ask Him. When I pray every day, I pray for thank you for giving us food and help other people have shelter and make them not hungry and help them find food and give them a house and all that kind of stuff.
Welcome back. And now for more news from our global church community.
La Sierra University earlier this month received an honor for its community engagement and service programs. The Adventist University in the U.S. state of California was given the Community Engagement Classification by the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching. The designation recognizes an institution's collaboration with its local, national, and global communities for several qualifications, including the enrichment of research, teaching, and civic responsibility.
Youth attending a winter festival in Lillehammer, Norway, collected thousands of Norwegian kroner to support Syrian refugee children. The project will fund school lunches for Syrian refugee children in Lebanon. The initiative is sponsored by the Adventist Development and Relief Agency in Norway. This year's project was selected so that Norwegian youth could easily relate to other young people benefiting from the donations. The annual festival for the Adventist Church in Norway includes spiritual programs, social events, and a floor hockey tournament.
4 Adventist young adults in Brazil's state of Espírito Santo saved the life of a man who had crashed his motorcycle. The group saw the injured man on the side of the road and called for an ambulance. They stayed to administer first aid as emergency personnel instructed them over the phone. The young adults saved the man while coming home from a Caleb mission project. Through this initiative, more than 50,000 young people during the month of January dedicated their vacation to evangelism and community service in cities with little or no Adventist presence. In 2015, more than 100,000 are expected to participate.
Hope Channel in Australia has launched a new series of short videos, Dog Tales, which explores practical things dogs can teach humans about how to live. The program can be seen at hopechannel.com. Here's a sneak peek of what the series holds.
Dog spelt backwards is God. Now, the last thing we would do is make a dog into a god. They are the created, not the creator. But there are many practical things my dog Cyrus has taught me, both about God and how we should live. I once saw a sticker that said, "Try to be the person your dog thinks you are." They always seem to see the positive side of us, and they just love us no matter what. It's no wonder they're considered our best friends. So what are some spiritual insights our best friends can teach us about everyday life?
And finally, we would like to wish a special happy birthday to Josephine Patinella, who turned 108 last week. Josephine attends the La Mesa Adventist Church in San Diego in the U.S. state of California. The Union Tribune newspaper reported that Josephine attributes her longevity to her relationship with God and a sensible lifestyle.
Still ahead, tips for a healthy financial future.
And you've heard us talk about the GAIN conference, but what exactly is it? We'll explain up next. Welcome back. The GAIN conference has taken place all over the world, but this year we're bringing GAIN to you. Here's how.
GAIN, G-A-I-N, the Global Adventist Internet Network, a yearly gathering of technology professionals, online evangelists, producers, web strategists, and other enthusiasts. The general consensus is that there's something special about meeting together, making new friends, finding connections, and building up a network of people that all have the same goal: to share the gospel via the internet. Past venues include Montego Bay, Hong Kong, Dubai, and Baltimore. But wait for it. The next GAIN is right where you are. That's right, wherever you can find an internet connection, a hotspot, or a mobile data signal. It's the very first GAIN online. From February 11 to 15, a selection of experts will give short, compelling visual presentations. Then you, wherever you are in the world, can send questions via Facebook or Twitter and join the discussion. Some of these questions and comments will immediately be selected and answered by a panel of experts after each 10-minute presentation. This will allow for a worldwide online discussion, live. Every day, the same presentations will be live streamed at 3 different times so that everyone can watch regardless of their time zone. Just choose which time works best for you. While the presentations for the day will be the same, the questions and answers from the panel will be different. For example, the 6 a.m. Washington, D.C. presentation could be viewed at 11 a.m. in London, or 2 p.m. in Addis Ababa, or 6 p.m. in Bangkok, or perhaps at 8 p.m. in Sydney. Presentations will also be archived on YouTube for later viewing. The entire event will be streamed live in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Portuguese, and French. Get a group together at your church or work, or participate at home in the evening in your pajamas. This is GAIN 2015 online. Register now at gain.adventist.org.
Don't have time every day to post on the pages you manage? Angela Taipei explains how and why scheduling your posts on Facebook could be the answer.
One of the biggest challenges that social media managers face is time. For most people, overseeing a Facebook page or Twitter account is just one of the many tasks they have to accomplish on a daily basis. To save yourself time during the week, sit down to create a content calendar of what to post throughout the week. Then in one sitting, write and schedule those posts to publish on their own. This is especially helpful if you would like to publish during times you're not in the office, such as evenings or weekends. There are many free apps that will help you schedule, such as Hootsuite, Buffer, and Social Oomph, among others. But for now, let's look at how to schedule on the native Facebook and Twitter platforms themselves. To schedule a post on Facebook, simply compose your post and click the arrow next to the post button. There you'll have the option to schedule the post for a future date and time, backdate the post, which will make it appear as a post from the past, or save the draft to edit and publish later. On Twitter, the option is hidden in the advertising function, but it's possible and still free. Go to ads.twitter.com and at the top click Creatives and select Tweets. When you click the Compose Tweet button at the top, you'll have the option of scheduling for a future date. Make sure the delivery option of Standard is selected at the bottom. There are two things to consider when scheduling posts. The first is to keep your content calendar close at hand. You may need to cancel a post if breaking current events make it untimely or inappropriate. And second, just because you scheduled your content doesn't mean you can forget your page. You'll still need to oversee appropriateness of comments and answer any questions. But hopefully, scheduling posts will help you find a few extra minutes in your day.
Do you want to be debt-free and responsible with your money? This week, we continue our series on New Year's resolutions with practical financial tips from Stewardship Director Erika Pooney. Thank you for joining us today. And I just have a few questions to ask you.
It'll be a pleasure.
And my first question is, what are some practical financial goals people can make in the new year?
I think number one, it's very important, because we're talking finances, that you develop a budget, whether it's a personal budget or a family budget, and to make sure that you're going to follow through on that. Simple, but it's something that we all need to do. The second goal, which I think it's achievable, is for all of us, and I guess we're coming from a Christian perspective, and that is to recognize that in our finances, there's a part in what we have that belongs to God. We need to be mindful of the needs of others and say, hey, you know, I want to include the poor, or a special project to help someone either in the local community or in other parts of the world. So there are some suggestions for goals for this new year.
Oh, that's a very, very good way to give people some idea. So I like that, because people have a hard time with spending money and how to save. So those are good goals. I like that. And how can people go about achieving their financial goals? I think you already, touched on.
Now let's say you have developed a budget.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how are you going to follow through with that? I'm going to come back to my particular perspective as a Christian and say, well, you know, it's not natural for us to have that capacity or ability to achieve some things that we set as goals because of our own nature as humans. So I think we're going to need God to come into the picture. And I think it's important as Christians to say, hey, I'm going to invite God through my prayers and say, you know, I have this plan, I've got this goal, but I need your help.
And the last question that I have is, what is the best thing people can do to improve their financial health?
God is interested in our entire life. And I think that the very best thing that any one of us can do is to make first things first. And so I would come back to the point of making God first. And so if we are to develop systematically a plan for ourselves, we're going to say, hey, I'm going to return to God what belongs to Him in terms of tithe. I'm going to set aside my offerings of gratitude. And I think if we have that starting point right, the rest will follow. because God is with us and He will provide the strength for us to achieve those goals.
Now let's turn to David Trim for a look at Adventist history. This week, find out what Tool Church leaders are using once again to reach people with the gospel.
Welcome to This Week in Adventist History. On January 25 in 1909, the General Conference Committee voted to establish a health restaurant, as they called it, in the city of Washington, D.C. In the early and mid-20th century, many large cities across the world had Adventist vegetarian restaurants, but most were closed in the late 20th century. Just over 100 years after the General Conference voted money to set up such a restaurant just down the road from them, in the U.S. Capitol, church leaders around the globe are once again trying to establish restaurants as centers of influence for reaching the world's big cities. 3 years later, on January 25, 1912, the first Adventist church building in the Philippines was dedicated in Malolos, the hometown of the Manalassay family, one of whom, Emilio, later was one of the first 3 Filipinos ordained as Adventist ministers. On January 26, in 1947, in the Mexican state of Nuevo León, Montemorelos Hospital officially opened under the leadership of Dr. H.E. Butker. Adventist medical work in Mexico had begun in 1934, when 2 physicians, Einar S. Ritchie and Ralph Smith, held improvised clinics in different parts of the country. Construction of a hospital began in 1945 on land donated by the Nuevo León state governor, and it opened 68 years ago this week. Today it is Montemorelos University Hospital, which last year treated 53,000 patients. That was This Week in Adventist History.
Thanks for watching ANN. Join us next week for more news from the headquarters of the Seventh-day Adventist Church.
In the meantime, join our global conversation on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can connect with other Adventists worldwide through more stories, photos, and videos. Visit Facebook/Adventist News, Twitter/Adventist Church, and Instagram @Adventist Church.
Our good news for this week comes from Romans chapter 13, verse 8. The passage says, "Let no debt remain outstanding, except for the continuing debt to love one another. For he who loves his fellow men has fulfilled the law."
That's our program for this week. And remember, you can always visit news.adventist.org for daily news and videos. Until next time, God bless.
Take care.